Welcome to a series of lessons looking at trigonometry. I'm your presenter today, Aaron Lewis. In this series of lessons, we'll be looking at right angle triangle trigonometry, using the sine rule, using the cosine rule, calculating the area of triangles, and graphs of trigonometric functions. In this lesson today, we're looking at the cosine rule. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to calculate the side length and an unknown angle of a triangle using the cosine rule. This will include using your calculator. This lesson is suitable for students who will be taking A-level mathematics. The language of the lesson is English, and the recording should take around 30 minutes. So the learn names of this lesson are to be able to calculate a side length of a triangle using the cosine rule, to be able to calculate an angle of a triangle using the cosine rule. So as in the previous videos, the most important part is labelling the triangle. Now this is the same as the way you would label a triangle when using the sine rule. So in this top triangle, I've decided that that side is lowercase a. The opposite angle is capital A. This side is lowercase b. And the opposite angle is capital B. The final side is lowercase c. And the opposite angle is capital C. And for the bottom triangle, this side I have called lowercase a. The opposite angle I have called capital A. I've called this side B. And the opposite angle then is capital B. This angle would be then capital C. And this side here, the last side, is lowercase c. Now the cosine rule is in two variants. So if we're finding a side length, it is almost Pythagoras, except we are taking away 2bc cos A. Now the easiest way to remember this one is that we need two sides and the angle between. Two sides and the angle between, cosine rule. Now this formula can be rearranged, and the rearrangement is something like this. We're going to add 2bc to both sides. 2bc cos A we're going to add to both sides. Next thing we're going to do is subtract a squared from both sides. And the last step then is to divide through by 2bc, which gives you this formula here. So if we're using the cosine rule to find an angle, it is this formula. And this formula here, if you have a look carefully, involves three sides. So we need three sides. And notice this minus a here matches up to this a here. So the first step with the cosine rule is to label the triangle and then choose the correct formula. So here we go. In this first example, you can see that I'm trying to calculate a length, and I've got two sides and the angle between. So I'm just going to pull up the cosine rule. There it is in red, and it's all about the labelling. So I'm just going to change that for 4 centimeters. And I would be asked to calculate possibly this length here. So we'd like to find out what A is. So it makes sense on this question to say that lowercase a would be equal to x. Lowercase b would be equal to either 10 or 4, doesn't actually matter with the cosine rule. And c then would be equal to 4. Capital A would be equal to 30 degrees. Remember, if that's lowercase a, that is capital A. Lowercase b, capital B. Lowercase c, capital C. So when we're using the cosine rule, we need the angle opposite and the other two sides. So for this question here, the formula I would use would be a squared equals b squared plus c squared, so almost Pythagoras, except we are subtracting 2bc cos A. Okay, the next example, this time I'm trying to find an angle and I'm given all three sides. So I need to be really, really careful when I label. So the formula I'll be using is cos A is equal to b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2bc. The most important part of the cosine rule is matching up the a's, like on the question above. We are trying to find this angle here, which is capital A, because it says cos A equals, which means this side here is small a, this side here would be small b, and this side here would be small c. Now it doesn't matter if you get b and c the other way around, a is critical. For the question below, I'm trying to find this length here, and I've got two sides and the angle between. I'm just going to change that for 7 centimeters. So for this question here, I'd be using a squared equals b squared plus c squared, Pythagoras, subtract 2bc cos A. So the first thing we need to calculate is A. So for this problem, I would say that lowercase a would be equal to y. Lowercase b would be equal to either 5 or 7, it doesn't matter. And the same for lowercase c. Capital A would be equal to 50 degrees, and then I would substitute into the formula. And on the last example here, I'm finding an angle. So it's going to be cos A is equal to b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2bc. And what's most important is matching A, capital A, with lowercase a. So I'm trying to find capital A, so it makes sense to label this angle here with the x on capital A, which means the 10 centimeter side is lowercase a, and the other two sides, it doesn't matter because we're squaring them and adding them and multiplying. So for this problem, I would let lowercase a be equal to 10, lowercase b be equal to 8, lowercase c be equal to 6, and capital A would be equal to x. And that's all I would need. So another worked example problem pair. I'll do the question on the left, and the one on the right is for you to have a go at. So this question asks us to label the triangle and then decide which version of the cosine rule needs to be used. So in this problem, we'll assume that we're trying to find out what x is. So first of all, I'm going to label it. Now, using the formulas from earlier, it starts with a squared, and then we've got Pythagoras, and it's all about matching a up with capital A. So it makes sense to label x as A, which means the 50 degrees is capital A. The 4 centimetre side or the 10 centimetre side could be B, which means the 30 degree angle is capital B. The 10 centimetre side is C, and the opposite angle is capital C. And the formula I would be using is this one here. So all we needed to do was label the triangle and identify which formula. Here is your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is my solution. We were finding y, which makes sense to call that lowercase a, which meant the 56 degree angle was capital A. I've chosen 12 to be lowercase b, and I've chosen lowercase c to be 15. Those two are interchangeable. And the formula I would be using would be a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Here's another example. So this time I'm trying to find this value of x here. So I'm going to start by labelling the angles first. So that angle x there I've called capital A, which means the opposite side will be lowercase a. I've decided to call that angle capital B, which means the 15 centimetre side is lowercase b. That angle is capital C, and the 5 centimetre side is then lowercase c. And the formula I would be using this time would be cos A equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared, all divided by 2bc. Here is your example. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is my solution. So we would have the y angle being capital A, which means the 11 centimetre side is lowercase a. It doesn't matter which way around you get b and c. So I've called the 8 centimetre side lowercase b. Opposite angle then is capital B. The 10 centimetre side is lowercase c, and the opposite angle then is capital C. And if I was going to solve this question, I would be using this formula here. What I'd like to do now is have a go at mini quiz 1 and come back to the video when you're ready. Here is the next couple of examples. So this time we're going to actually try and solve the problem. The first step is to label the triangle. X is going to be lowercase a, which means the 30 degree angle will be capital A, and it doesn't matter which way round you get B and C. And notice I have got two sides which are given and the angle between them, which allows you to calculate the opposite side. It's one of the key things of the cosine rule. Two sides and the angle between. Next thing I'm going to do, lowercase a would be equal to x, lowercase b would be equal to 10, lowercase c would be equal to 9, and a capital A is equal to 30 degrees. So there's the formula. And all I'm going to do now is substitute those values in blue into the formula. And there you can see A has become X, B has become 10, C has become 9, Then I've got 2 lots of 9 multiplied by 10 multiplied by cos 30. Remember, all of those there are being multiplied together. Next thing I'm going to do is type all of this right hand side into my calculator and press equals. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is use that answer and square root it. We want x equals, and this is x squared. So in my calculator it's going to be square root of ants, or the square root of all of this line above. Which means the answer is 5.01 centimetres. Here's your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here is the solution. So, as we're calculating y, I'll let that be lowercase a, which means the 40-degree angle is capital A. B and C, it doesn't matter. I've got 2 sides again, and the angle between. So the answer is y would be 6.84 centimetres. Here's another example. So for this problem, we need to calculate the value of x. And there is a y in here, which I don't think we need to calculate on this problem. It's just a bit of a red herring. So I need to focus on, have I got 2 sides and the angle between? Yes, I have. So my first step is to label. X would be A. B. Capital A is 100 degrees. Lowercase b is 8. Capital B is y, but it's not needed in the formula. And lowercase c is equal to 4. Next thing I need to do is decide which formula. As we're finding a side, it's that one. And my next step is just a substitution. So I've swapped A for x, B for 8, C for 4, and that bit there has the substitution as well. My next line is to type all of this into my calculator and press equals. And the final step is then to square root that answer. So x is 9.55 centimetres. Here's your question. Pause the video and have a go now. Here's the solution. So y is 4.6 centimetres. So y would have been lowercase a, 50 degrees would have been capital A, B would have been the 6 centimetre side, and the 4 centimetre side was lowercase c. Notice the x isn't needed in this problem. Have a go at mini quiz 2 and come back to the video when you're ready. In these final examples, we're going to be finding an unknown angle using the cosine rule. These questions are very easy to spot because you are given all 3 sides and you are asked to calculate an angle. First of all, I'm going to label the angle first, capital A. Opposite will be lowercase a, and as before, B and C do not matter which order they are chosen. So lowercase a is equal to 6, lowercase b is equal to 10, lowercase c is equal to 5. and capital A is equal to x. So I'm using the rearranged formula, which is this one. And the only thing which is really important is that we get the capital A and the lowercase a in the correct places. Here we go. And there is my substitution. Next stage is to calculate this right hand side in a calculator. And now I've got cos x is equal to 0.89. To get x equal, I need to inverse cos both sides. And using a calculator, x becomes 27.13 degrees. Here's your question. Pause the video and have a go now. So, to look at the answer, first of all, let's check the labelling. Y should be capital A, which means the 10 centimetre side is lowercase a, and B and C don't really matter, you might have them the other way around. There we go. So that is your first line. The next line is to calculate this right hand side, which comes out as 0. Inverse cos of 0 is 90 degrees. So actually, this is a right angled triangle. You might have noticed that anyway. A 6, 8, 10 triangle is right angled. Next example. So this time, we're asked to calculate the value of x, and we're given this 100 degrees. So in this question, I could use the sine rule. But because I've got all three sides, I'm going to use the cosine rule. So my first step is to label the sides and the angles. Now we're trying to find x, so it makes sense to label that with a capital A first. So capital A is equal to x. Lowercase a is equal to 8. Lowercase b, we've got capital B there, but lowercase b is equal to 5. Capital C is not needed, and neither is capital B. And lowercase c is equal to 4. So straight away, I've substituted into the formula. Remember, it's cos A is equal to b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2bc. The right hand side there, I've typed into the calculator. And then I've inverse cos both sides. So x is 125.1 degrees. Here's your question. Pause the video and have a go now. So let's check. Y should have been capital A. 10 centimetre size should have been lowercase a. B and C, doesn't matter which way around they are. So in this case, I've got B as 8 and C as 9. I've just had to make a small correction there. And there we go. There's the correct solution at 71.79 degrees. Have a go at mini quiz 3 and come back to the video when you're ready. So the learning aims of this lesson were to be able to calculate an unknown side of a triangle using the cosine rule, to be able to calculate an unknown angle of a triangle using the cosine rule. Now remember, for the top objective, you need two sides and the angle between. And for the lower objective, you need all three sides. That is the end of this lesson. Thank you very much for watching.